Our lives had all changed in less than an hour. Even if UA repaired the dorms, there's no way we could go back. As soon as the public caught wind of the attack, it was over. How can you call yourselves the top hero school if you can't even protect them? You should learn to be heroes before trying to teach others how to become one, was one of the responses on social media. Absolutely sickening. My heart goes out to the families of those poor children who lost their lives due to the insolence of these so-called heroes, said another user. All Might retires and everyone's brains go to mush. Won't be long now until society collapses just because one person is out of the picture? Pathetic. Unlike in most controversial cases, online or in person, the accused always had someone defending them. Not UA. No one sympathized with anyone except the families of the students and heroes who died. I got more and more depressed as I scrolled through the comments on my phone after reading the news article that added fuel to the flames. Principal Nezu and Mr. Aizawa were being held accountable. The mansion bell rang, and Yaoyorozu answered the door. She seemed surprised by her guest and welcomed them inside. The familiar, tired voice echoed in the main entrance. It was Mr. Aizawa. I didn't mean to snoop, but I overheard him ask, "Do you mind if I stay here a while? I need to lay low. I can't even leave my own house with how many protesters are outside." So we had one of our teachers living with us. Wait, was he even our teacher anymore? Not officially. UA was dead. The remaining students were sent back home to their parents to find another school to finish their courses in. What happens to us now, Mr. Aizawa? Yaoyorozu asked worriedly. Sighing, he looked down and responded, I don't know. I'm not going to be allowed to teach anymore. I'll probably lose my hero license. Everyone's parents want them home too. If you want to stay in contact with your friends, I'd recommend you make arrangements today. You might not see them again for a long time. I decided not to listen through the crack of my door anymore and opened it up, walking to the top of the stairs. I didn't quite shout, but I spoke in a voice loud enough to be heard. What if we bring UA back? I asked. He chuckled. And how do you suppose we change the minds of everyone who hates us? If we take down the Sinister Six, we can prove that UA has been doing their job of making great heroes. We won that fight. No one talks about the good, only the bad. So if we beat the Six without any losses, we'll gain the respect of the public back. It was almost wild talk, desperate ramblings as the growing realization that we were going to end up going to different schools started to come to mind. I didn't want to say goodbye to anyone. Not again. If only the world worked like that. We'd go in today, double our efforts to find and eradicate the Six. UA would be back. We'd sing a happy song under a rainbow with birds flying around our heads. This isn't a Disney movie, Alex. Life doesn't always have a happy ending. I'm sorry, you don't want to say goodbye to your friends, but it's a part of life. I'm having to say goodbye to 4 of my friends today. Their funerals are being held this evening. Attend if you wish. If you'll excuse me, I have to prepare a disguise so that I can attend in peace. After that, he hurried off to an empty room and closed the door, not actually bringing anything with him. He may appear emotionless, but he was clearly upset over yesterday's losses. I'm going to destroy them, I muttered to myself. Yaoyorozu looked up at me. Alex, please don't do something you will regret. I shook my head. No, never again. I'm not going to regret this. I'm going to train harder than I ever have, and I'm going to take the Six down. I slammed my right fist into my left open palm and stormed off down the hallway. I knocked on Monoma's door and awaited a response. He opened the door a moment later and looked at me with disinterest. Yeah? Already with a determined look in my eyes, I said, Monoma, please train me. He raised an eyebrow and crossed his arms. Me? Train you? How do you suppose I do that? Use my quirks and beat the hell out of me. I must go outside, you're going to transform, and you're going to fight me. I'm currently not strong enough to beat you if you do that, so you get to take your anger out against Class 1A. Sound good? Monoma smirked and offered to shake my hand. He didn't say anything, but the gesture was obvious. He was coming into contact with me. He was accepting. I smiled and shook his hand, before we both teleported outside silently. Cracking his neck, he stood 10 meters from me and transformed after removing some of his clothes. I'm a villain stronger than you. What do? He asked, standing still. I ran at him at full speed as he remained standing there, yawning. I ran around him and started to teleport in circles around him, keeping a constant 6 mirages around him. I prepared to attack, pulling my arm back and bunching my fist, but he just looked at me and judged where I was going to hit. He thrust his arm and plucked me out of my pattern before slamming me into the ground. Is that your Senken Panshi? Seriously? That's way too predictable. No wonder Kirikiri blocked your attacks. You're focusing too hard on being flawless, like a smooth animation. Get up. Let me show you true unpredictability. Groaning, I got up off the floor and looked at him. He pulled me over to where he was standing and ran around me before teleporting in what seemed to be 20 different places at once, just not as fluidly as I was. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm not teleporting the same way you are. I'm only teleporting fast enough to be in 3 places at once, but I'm alternating my patterns. You don't know where I'm going next, do you? He actually got me. I knew he was stronger, but he was smarter too. He had only used my quirk once, but he was far more experienced already. Was this the power of confidence? I looked around, turning around, trying to keep up with his pace, but it truly was random. It was like bolts of lightning, never striking the same place twice. He wasn't a 60 FPS animation like I was trying to be. He was a choppy, unpredictable nuisance. Even so, I tried to predict where he would go next, and threw a punch at a spot where he'd been, but he was no longer there. I tried again, but again he was no longer there. And this time, he grabbed my arm and pulled me over, karate chopping my right wing. Kendo taught me that one. Hurts, right? He asked as I fell to the floor again. He stopped teleporting and helped me up. Now, you try. Teleport randomly, not predictably. You're strong enough, you just need to use your wits more. Nodding, I hobbled over as he stood in his spot and waited for me to do something. Don't hold back, by the way. I want to know how much damage this form can take. I nodded again and grit my teeth before teleporting in the same manner he did, but still keeping my 6 places a second. However, I didn't stick to the same spots. I teleported around like he did, and this brought my total close to 40. Double his. His eyes widened as both his eyebrows went up, before smirking and chuckling. See? You got it! That's even more disorienting than me somehow. Now, give it your best shot. He hunched over and got into a fighting stance. 12 fists came at him from various directions, 7 of which he blocked, but 5 connected. He didn't buckle, as my human fists weren't really anything to marvel at. You're holding back, right? I said not to. I'm not. I used steel knuckles in my costume, just so you know. Just so you know, yes, we brought our costumes before leaving campus grounds. Even so, I should be feeling something, right? This skin is so thick, it's like having 10 layers of leathery armor. It's not even enough impact to feel like a massage. Not feeling so good about myself right now, I complained, to which he laughed. That spurred me on a bit, and I went in for a right hook to his jaw. The punch connected, and his face turned in time with the punch, though it didn't really affect him. It definitely surprised him, as he complimented me. If that was an ordinary person, they'd be down for sure. You'd probably take out most of the 6 with that. Yes, I heard your crazy plan. Let's keep training. Maybe we can get you up to 50 clones. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Kohei was walking down a street with a hoodie on, masking most of her face. She had a white mask covering her face too, presumably bone. She took a turn to a dark alley, walking alone. At the other end of the alley, a man appeared. They both stopped, 20 meters from each other. You the bone collector? He called out. Be quiet, you idiot! You want to get us caught? She hissed at him. Maybe you should come closer. Sighing, she walked towards him to within half a meter, then walked right up to him, staring at him intensely through the slits in her mask, before whispering, Close enough? Not even a little nervous, the man confidently replied, A little better. So, why the cryptic message? What cryptic message? Meet me in the Onigai Alley at noon tomorrow. In what way is that cryptic? I gave you an order, you followed it, you're good enough to join my crew, she replied. Hey, not so fast. I ain't so easy that a girl with a cute face will convince me to join her without telling me what's in it for me, the man said. I know who you are, Waken. You're a lot like me. Your quirk isn't socially accepted, even when you tried to prettify it up. You even degraded yourself to the point of becoming a ballerina to try to make yourself look less menacing, she started. Dejected, he mumbled, Men can be ballerinas too. Continuing, she said, "But even so, people still distance themselves from you. If you were to use your quirk even accidentally, you could cut someone pretty bad. Show me. I want you to cut this bone right now." She protruded a short bone from her mask, to which the man looked at her, unsure at first, before raising his hand. Strips of his skin started to peel down his arm and up his hand, which solidified, looking like thin blades. He chopped the air, whipping his ribbons and cutting straight through the bone like it was butter. Pleased, Kohei nodded. "Good. Now this one." She made a thicker bone, which he also cut through. "Good. That's stronger than steel. This one will be stronger than titanium." She produced one more, which he couldn't quite cut through. She seemed surprised he made as much progress as he did before absorbing the bone. "You're stronger than I thought. I'm going to be leaving the Sinister Six after our next operation. They're a bunch of pussies. They don't want power. They're fighting for peace like a bunch of hippies. You join me? We'll rule the world together. One country at a time." Tripping over his words a few times, he asked, "The world? You want to take over the world?" She grinned. "And no one will ever judge the strong and frightening quirks again. If we can't fit in with this world, we'll make a new one where we do fit in. What do you say, Waken?" He thought for a moment as she extended her arm towards him. "Call me the Ribbon Dancer." He went to shake her hand before she recalled it in disgust. "Ribbon Dancer? Do we need to stock you up on tampons before we make a move?" "Hey, no judge world, remember?" She slapped her forehead and groaned. "Fine, Ribbon Prancer. We'll stay in contact. If we need help during our next operation, I'll call you in. Not sure what it is yet. I got some more recruiting to do still, too." As she turned to leave the alleyway, Ribbon Dancer called out, "What's our Yakuza name?" Kohei turned her head over her shoulder, simply stating the name she'd chosen. "Underdogs." With that, she took her mask off and smiled at him, before putting it back on and leaving. He gasped softly when he saw her, and smiled. Back at the mansion. "I'm done. I can't lift another finger," I said as I lay on the grass, exhausted from my training with Monoma. No sooner had I said that, did Kendo come out to tell us lunch was ready. I shot up and ran towards the mansion as Monoma chuckled to himself and followed me at his own pace. When I got inside, everyone had gathered around and was sitting down at a long table meant for 50 people. There were 2 chairs at either end and 24 chairs on either side. I smiled when I saw there was an empty space beside Sue. She smiled at me, and I immediately went over to sit down next to her. When I did, she kissed my cheek, the first time she displayed affection to me publicly. Everyone had food on their plates, and I was handed a black plate with some bread products on it. Yaoyorozu smiled as I looked up at her, and she said, "It's made specially for you. I hope my baking skills are to your liking." Whilst Monoma and I were training, she and a few others had helped baking me some bread with special ingredients so I would feel at home with everyone else who had bread products. I smiled widely at her. "Thank you!" I immediately dug in and took a bite out of the bread, closing my eyes and moaning, "This is fantastic." She smiled widely and her eyes sparkled. "Really? I got the recipe online. I'm so glad you like it. I'll tell Sato, Pony, and Kodai." I choked on my next bite, and Yaoyorozu scurried off to tend to other matters quickly. Sue looked at the bread and looked at me, who'd recovered. "Pony helped make it?" she asked. I looked down at it and got a text message at that moment. I looked and saw it was from Pony. "I hope this can be our first step to us being friends again. Don't choke." I glanced upwards and caught Pony staring, to which she quickly looked away, embarrassed. Smiling, I replied to the text. "As long as you're not secretly trying to poison me, I'd say it's a very good step." I saw her read the reply and giggle to herself, unable to hear it over the chatter of 40 other rowdy teenagers. Turning to Sue, I told her, "Don't worry, it's not going to kill me." On the list of things to potentially kill me, both Pony and suspicious bread could be scratched off. I ate happily beside Sue and told her about my training. Mr. Aizawa seemed very uncomfortable sitting beside Mina and Bakugo, considering he had no authority to tell Bakugo to shut up, and Mina was a chatterbox by nature. I got another text, but this time it was from Ryukyu. "Alex-kun, I heard what happened to UA, and have finally got a moment to message you. I'm very sorry you had to experience more things that no one ever should in their youth. If you needed somewhere to stay, my domain is always welcome. We will take down the Sinister Six." "Thank you. I'm at Momo's Manor, so I'm fine for housing. As regards taking down the Six, is there something I can do?" I highly doubt that you'd be allowed to join in, but I'll ask Endeavour. We're gathering a large amount of pros to take them down. The lurkers are here too, so can also vouch for you. I'll reply as soon as I get some info for you. I'm always here for you if you want to chat, even if I may be busy. There were moves being made against the Sinister Six? I had to be a part of it, no matter what. Even if they said no, I had to get involved somehow. These people took my father, destroyed my school, and crushed our dreams. I don't care what anyone said. I was going to make them pay. Nodding, I hold... It's not even enough impact to thee a massage? What did my autocorrect do there? You're gonna be loud for a while, aren't you, cat? What? What do you want? Come on. Come on, sit here with me then. Ah, the cat's on my lap.